Welcome to the Dean and Drew Show.
The very first
The
one.
very first one. They say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Did you know that?
It's a Corny quote.
Little
But
bit.
it's true,
so
though. Wise.
It's true. It's so wise. Anyways, we are here on a new leg, a new leaf,
A new mission, if you will.
a new mission, and we are here to begin this podcast as two brothers who just love to talk to each other.
And create content. We just love to create something from dirt, and that's kind of what we're doing here. So,
Yep. So for context, I am Dean. That is Drew.
hello.
We are both real estate agents. We are both actually learning a trade at the moment, but on the side, we are very passionate about media and creating with our friend Brandon, who is our producer. Producer Brandon, as he is known. We are very passionate about producing and creating, and we've been doing it actually since we were in 8th grade. We met Brandon when we were in 8th grade, and we've been creating crappy things ever since.
Yep. Been creating stuff out of dirt since, and
Yeah.
a lot of it still is dirt. But it's our dirt, and you can't have it.
Our
So,
first ever film we made with Brandon was actually what we call the bullying movie.
Yeah,
And
it was
the
a health
bullying
project.
movie was myself, Drew, Brandon, and a few other of our friends at the ripe age of like 12 or 13. I was in 8th grade.
yeah,
so I think I was
we
like
were
12.
boogers.
We were
We were
boogers.
total boogers.
And it was actually, the setup of the film was actually really cool. We had like a comic book Marvel type theme going to it. So you'd have the yellow box in the corner with the one-liners and stuff.
And
And
the thought bubbles and all that good stuff.
the idea was that Brandon was the bully and we had to overcome the bullying and then eventually make friends. It was for a health project in 8th grade.
Yeah, Dean and I were the victims of this bullying.
We were.
So Brandon's insults were hurled at us.
Yes.
And eventually we made peace with him. But yeah, that was kind of like our first documented document, if you
Yeah.
will, of our creations.
And there were a few other times in between that we were looking to create something and get something rolling that just never panned out. But eventually it culminated into a podcast that we started back in 2022, right?
Yep, January of
Yeah,
2022.
2022. And we did that for a while, but we kind of lost our steam and we didn't film or nothing. We didn't have a very high social media presence. So it just kind of fizzled out and became something we did to kind of pass time with Brandon and another one of our friends. But here we are again because we were talking about it. We're like, man, all of these podcasts have come out. All of these people have kind of gained platforms and have been talking to these really cool people. And
Yeah.
that's something that I've always kind of admired and looked up to and wanted
Yeah.
to do myself. So after talking about it with Drew and Brandon, we decided, you know what, why don't we try this again? But why don't we do it differently? Why
Yeah.
don't we try actually turning the cameras on and editing and gaining a social media presence and seeing what
Yeah.
we can do. Not that we're going to drop, merch lines and stuff in the future. Maybe we will. But just
We
the
might.
idea of having a platform and being able to interview cool people is something that really excites me.
Yeah, and mark it down right now. Our number one goal is to one day interview the president.
Yes.
So
Whoever the president is, by the way.
yeah, we
I
don't
don't
know
care
who
who
it's
it
going to
is.
be at that point.
Yeah.
But if you are the president and we have this podcast going, we will be knocking on your door. So
Yes.
keep an eye out for the Dean and Drew show. We will be on your doorstep eventually. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's something that, we've been talking about for a while, and we lost our steam with the podcast, but we never really lost all of our steam. We kind of still wanted to do it still, but never, I guess, really found the time to. But eventually we're like, no, let's do it. And
Yeah. Let's get it out of the group chat, as they say.
yeah, let's get it out of the group chat. Let's actually get it on a camera and get it on social media somewhere so people can see it. But I guess our number one goal with the podcast is to, one, create, and number two, to entertain. So
And inspire for what
and
it's worth.
inspire. Yeah,
Yeah.
we want to take this platform and do a bunch of really cool stuff. So
I always think it's really cool when I'm watching a YouTube video or if I'm on somebody else's page or whatever, and there's those comments that are like, dude, you've helped me out of this dark place, or I'm never going to forget what you just said there, or, whatever the comment is. And obviously you find people in certain places in their life, and sometimes all they need is that little nugget, but the idea of being able to provide that kind of value to somebody that you don't even know is it's really cool. It really is just really cool.
Yeah, and we had that kind of reach with our old podcast. We did have a little bit of a cult following with it, where we had we always joked around that we had the same 6 viewers and offered to get stuff from the gas station for them and everything. But yeah, we had the same 6 viewers that like to listen to our podcast, and we just want to build a good following like that to help people out and to even just give them a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of a push, or a little ray of light, as corny as that is. Yeah. To be able to provide that kind of value to people, and also, be able to create and inspire. I mean, that's invaluable, and that's kind of what the goal of our podcast is.
Yeah. I think you could even say too that the other goal of the podcast is just to do something to build something from zero. Because that takes a lot of commitment, time, and effort. And to build something from zero, I feel like as time's gone on with kind of the growing instant gratification complex that has been built out there, it's really tough to find people who want to just start from zero and are okay with that.
Yeah.
Because everybody just wants to start, at the end, obviously. Who doesn't? But start from zero, to build something up and to kind of be there along the entire way is something that really excites me too.
Yeah.
I mean, to kind of fail and learn and gain the new perspective and then build upon that is something that takes a lot of courage, I suppose. And by no means am I calling myself super courageous at all. But to be willing to fail, to learn, and to grow is something that I've had to do before, so I'm willing to do it again.
Yeah. And what's nice about this podcast too is, as opposed to our old one, we're not much older. We probably stopped recording our old podcast like maybe middle of the year last year. So we're not too much older, but we definitely have a lot more experience than we did before. I mean, we started our old podcast, that was almost 3 years ago. So we were, 18, 19 years old. And now opposed to that, we're turning 22. So we have more life experience that we can talk about and relay to you guys, as opposed to when we did earlier.
Yeah. We're going to gain a lot more as we go on that we can always talk about on the show, I suppose. But yeah, to get out there and just to do something that we care about and to do something that, makes us happy, I suppose, is kind of the key. I mean, you need to be able to wake up and care about what you're doing. Maybe it's not your job. Maybe it's not your, whatever you've got going on. But to have something that you can wake up and be working towards is really important. Mm-hmm. And if a lot of people found that or even have found that and pursued it, I really have a good feeling that a lot of people will be in a better spot, because a lot of people know what they want to do. I think a lot of people have an understanding about what they care about. Maybe it's politics, maybe it's religion, maybe it's building a Lego set. I don't know. A lot of people have this list of things that they really care about, where it's like, you know what? I don't really care about the math homework, but I could listen to this all day.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah.
You might need
feed that.
Right. You might need to take some more practical steps. Like, maybe you got to work a job to be able to afford it or to supplement it.
Yeah.
But do it, because life goes by quick,
Yeah, and I think maybe that's just kind of the metaphor for this podcast, and that'll be the little nugget you can take away from this one, is just taking that first step. And I mean, the podcast that we're recording right now is audio and visual proof of us taking the first step towards a bigger future.
Get your life out of the group chat.
Exactly.
That's what you got to do.
Start doing the things that you say you're going to do.
But you know what I've heard paradoxically is that the more you talk about what you want to do, like in the future, the less likely you become to do it, because you're kind of already giving yourself the satisfaction of people's responses to that.
Yeah.
So like if you want to go to film school, you're like, oh, I'm going to become this director. And it's just kind of this thing you've been tossing around, but you're telling people about it, like, oh man, good for you. That's really cool. You're kind of already getting that feedback where it's like,
you're already getting the reward.
You're already getting the reward without doing anything. So it kind of kills that drive, I suppose. At least that's kind of how it works for me. I mean, everybody might be different, but to keep your goals somewhat to yourself.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, I guess, is just to keep what is driving you sort of to yourself, not sharing a ton. giving people maybe an insight if they ask, but not going out of your way to tell everybody what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that way you're not giving yourself the false satisfaction of not doing a thing that you're saying you're gonna
Yeah, and once you take that first step, tell people. I mean, you get that encouragement, get that fuel to keep going. But just to tell people, yeah, we're going to start a podcast, and then people go, "Oh, that's super cool," and then we talk about it, and then we never actually start it because we just talk about it all the time. Like you said, you're kind of defeating the purpose of actually starting. I mean, you're already getting the reward without actually doing anything, at least short term. So, like I said, this podcast is visual and audio proof of us taking the first step. So you have no excuses anymore.
I guess not. Yeah, you always got to take the first step. That's always the hardest step too. Taking the first step, learning the new skill, being able to just say, okay, you know what? I absolutely know nothing about what I'm doing. I know nothing. Like I actually started playing piano in August. I've been teaching myself piano, and it's always really frustrating hearing a song that kind of sounds like, you know what? I could do this. I could play this. And then you get the sheet music or, you get the first couple of notes and it's like, oh,
I can't play this.
This is actually really hard.
I actually can't do this.
I actually just need to start from square one and all the easy stuff that I don't want to deal with and that I want to do, the scales and the technique and building strength in your fingers and all that stuff. I need to do that before I'm able to comprehend this.
Yeah.
That's frustrating for sure. Or filming a podcast and doing all the editing and only getting a couple, 12 views on it. That's frustrating, but it's all part of the process, like any person you look at that has a huge following or a big platform or they're a millionaire or whatever you admire them for, they didn't start that way. So I've heard people say, and I really do like this, if you're going to admire somebody and envy them, you need to envy their lifestyle. And an easy example is actually Bill Gates. I've heard that Bill Gates didn't take a single day off for 30 years.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely bonkers. But
yeah, that's a lot.
He's also a gajillionaire. So if you want the fortune of Bill Gates, you need to also envy the lifestyle it took to get there. And I don't admire the lifestyle it took to get there. I don't want to take no vacations or no time off for 30 years.
It's fascinating that he did that, but that's not me, bro.
Yeah, and that's not a lot of people, but a lot of people want his money. That. So you look at these people who have these big followings or are really talented at guitar, and you're like, oh, I want to do that. Why can't I do that? I can't be that hard.
You don't practice 6 hours a day every single day.
So all that is to say, I suppose, that you got to take the first step. You got to take the first step. You just got to do the thing. Okay, I want to go to school. I want to cut people's hair. Okay, the first step for you might be to research, are there schools in your area? How much does it cost? How am I going to get there? I need a car. I'm going to save for a car and then I'm going to go to the school. And what does financial aid look like? So the first step isn't always walking into the school. Sometimes it's just figuring out what the plan is. Planning is the first step of planning.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
I heard our buddy Matt, shout out Matt. I remember we were in a conversation once, and he said it's not as much ready, aim, fire. It's more like fire, ready, aim, or something like that. Basically, instead of just sitting around, aiming and thinking about it constantly, you just got to take the first shot. You got to take the first step, and that's that. I mean,
yeah.
And once you do that, it'll all kind of fall into place. And I mean, half the problems you're trying to solve in your head and half the details you're trying to work out will work themselves out.
Or there are problems that don't even exist.
There are problems that don't exist, and there's a whole other mountain of problems that you didn't even consider because you haven't even started yet. So,
yeah. So you just kind of have to jump and grow wings on the way down, I suppose.
Yeah, I've been saying that forever.
You just kind of have to just take the first step. And like I said, it could be a number of different things for a number of different people. But figure out what your first step is. For a lot of people, that might just be planning. Whatever it is. And if you're going to plan, don't plan for long. Just get a basic couple of ideas down and then just run. But if you're passionate about something and you're motivated to do it, passionate, then there is zero reason that you can't take whatever you want to do and go far. But, for whatever reason, it doesn't work for you, take it as a lesson, find something else, maybe something else within that niche, and go forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's kind of the metaphor of today's podcast. And also just to introduce ourselves to you guys and kind of give you a roadmap for going forward. And what's kind of funny is this podcast that we're doing now will be radically different from what we're doing a year from now.
That's one thing I've learned.
None of this is going to matter in a year, but
yeah, especially as our friendship with Brandon has produced many, many films, and podcasts and videos and whatever, is that it always sucks looking back on it. You're like, oh, why would I say that? Why did I look like that? Why did we do that? Like, who greenlit this? Why?
Yeah.
Why did we not come up with a set? You know,
the House and the Senate approved this, and I'm not even sure why.
Yeah. So you always look back on things, and you're always going to critique what you did or add things. So just do it and critique later, I guess. You know,
Yeah.
There's always going to be things you could have done. And it's like when you have a meeting with somebody or an argument with somebody, and you're like, oh, I should have said that. I should have said that. That would have been the zinger, man. That would.
You're in your head in the shower,
Yeah.
just annihilating this person in an argument.
Yeah. This would have been the nail dropping, man. Like,
Yeah, the squad would have been laughing at this.
like, as John always says, John's our real estate broker. We are real estate agents, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that, but shout out.
We are real estate agents, by the way.
Anyways, John's our real estate broker. He always says there's the meeting before, the meeting during, and the meeting after. So the meeting before, you're always thinking like, oh, you know, all the things that could go wrong. The meeting during is just whatever happens during it. And then the meeting after is what you should have done. So
Yeah.
there's always going to be things you're worried about. There's always going to be things you wish you did. And then there's going to be what you do. So just do your thing,
Yep.
I guess.
Just spit it, queen. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of about it here. But yeah, like I said, this podcast is gonna kind of grow over time. So let's do it. So for the 6 people listening for this first one, you guys are gonna be kind of our enshrined listeners, and you guys will get gas station rights. So
Yeah.
welcome aboard, guys. This is the best time.
Welcome to the end of the first installation of the Dean and Drew show.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot coming out of this.
Yeah, we're gonna have funny taglines that we develop with you guys. I mean, it's gonna be pretty sweet. So.
Brandon doesn't even realize that this is actually his last episode as our producer. He's never coming back. So enjoy it while you guys have it.
We're firing Brandon right now.
Yeah.
Actually, except for next week when we need him again, and we're gonna send we're gonna make an apology video and send it to him.
Yeah, we're going to be using the audio from our iPhones going forward. So thanks, Brandon. Thanks for all you do.
We're gonna break into his house and use his stuff without him knowing.
But to anybody who actually took the time to listen to this, whether you're family, friends, whether you're people who just happen to find us on some sort of platform, whether you're somebody here because you hate our guts and you just want to spit on our face and just tell us we're worthless.
Yeah, thanks for hating,
listening.
by the way, and thanks for your listen that you can never get back.
Yeah, thanks for your time. No matter where you came from, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening, and thank you for trusting that we will actually do something here. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
shout out.
shout out. Thank you.
See ya.